Hi friends, welcome to this video. Today we're talking about how to find and apply to street fairs, farmers markets, conventions, any of that like category of events. Now that I've done several and applied to several, I thought I would be helpful and give some of my advice. So the first thing is how to even find these events, because before you can apply, you have to know about them, right? So one really helpful way is to go on Facebook and search events. You can search locally and see if there's anything near you. A lot of times by the time there is an event already created, the time for application has already passed. But you can see who is putting that event on, follow their page, and the next time that that event is put on in the next year, or some do multiple a year, you will get notified if you follow their page or like check up on Facebook. Another really good way is to check Facebook groups. Some will have groups for specific conventions or street fairs or things like that that recur every year. And so if you stay a part of that Facebook group, there will usually be a post as soon as applications are open. It's the same thing for Instagram. You can also search there and follow the pages, and they'll usually post when applications are available as well. But then after you follow those groups, you kind of just have to stay on top of checking your stuff and making sure that you see when applications are open. Unfortunately, some applications open super early. Like I had one event in June, applications open in like January. So just be aware that some of these things you might be applying a month before, or you might be applying like 6 months before. Another really helpful way is actually checking city websites. A lot of times cities will put on events. So like the city of Everett puts on a lot of events, and they do, I think, like farmers markets and other just random events. So you can check the city websites to see if they're putting anything on. I just went to the Oak Harbor. They did like a little street fair for the 4th of July and parade and stuff. And so you could have applied if you found out about it earlier than I did. So check that as well if there's any particular cities that you would like to do events in. But a really, really good way, and this doesn't always help you in the moment, it might help you like the next year or whatever, is to look at artists and see what events they're doing. So if you have artist friends, obviously like through them you can find events, or if you have artists that you follow that are local to you, check their Instagram or their social medias and see what events they're doing and see if there are events that interest you as well. There is one lady that I follow on Instagram, and she has all of her Instagram stories. I don't remember what it's called, but you know how you can like save your story so people can view it. So she has all of her stories from the last like year or two about events that she's done. So I actually went through all her stories to see what events she's done, to see if there were any that interested me. So networking with other artists is really helpful for that. Okay, so now that you've found events, how do you know which ones to apply for? Because some of them, if we're being honest, just like aren't gonna be for you. Some of them aren't gonna be your vibe, or just aren't going to do well for you. So there's a few things to consider. The first thing is your target audience. So who are you trying to market to? And this is kind of a difficult question. I feel like I've only just recently sort of figured this out, because I make products that I like, but that doesn't mean that my products are targeted exclusively to people that are white, female, around age like mid to late 20s, right? I have found that my products tend to target like teen through like mid to late 30s. And then I also have some sciencey stuff, so that targets anyone in the science industry, really. Anyone that likes kind of like cute pastel colors. So for me, the best event that I've ever done was at the U District Street Fair, because it was right outside UW, which has a lot of science majors. It has a lot of people in college, which is kind of my demographic. So I did really well because my audience was there. However, I think if I were to table at like a farmer's market, probably wouldn't go so well. But you also have to know the farmer's market, because some farmer's markets are very heavily just produce, and other ones have a lot of other varieties. So you kind of have to know. One really good way to know is to actually attend the event before you apply. But again, that does, like, if you're looking for events that year, it does not help you because you would have to attend that year and then apply the next year. But I do recommend doing research. It would probably help. I'm not good about it myself though. So do as I say, not as I do. Another really important thing to look into is the foot traffic. And not all events will know their foot traffic or will advertise their foot traffic. But if they do, that is really helpful information. Typically events that charge in like less than $100 aren't going to have a ton of foot traffic. You can expect to like maybe do okay if your demographic is there, but don't expect to be like getting crazy sales for the most part. And this is only in my experience, so obviously everyone has their own experience, but one really helpful way to know if a booth cost makes sense and if an event makes sense for you is to look at the booth cost, because some of them are super expensive and some are super cheap, and like based on how many events you've done, how experienced you are, and the cost of your items, kind of see if it makes sense. Also, like I was saying, just know your audience and what makes sense. Like the stuff that I do, I'm not going to go to a fine art street fair because my stuff is like keychains and stickers. I don't feel like I would really fit in there, if that makes sense. But what you can do is if you know the foot traffic or approximate foot traffic, you can assume that maybe 1 to 2% of those people will actually buy something from you. And then take your approximate cost per purchase. If you don't know what this is, you can just choose like one of your lower items just to be on the safe side. If you do know what it is, like say you've been using Square, you can kind of approximate based on previous events that you've done how much people spend per purchase and then do the math. So let's say I have an event that has 50,000 people coming. I can assume that, let's just say on the low side, 500 people are going to buy something from me. And my stickers are $2.50 per sticker. So let's just assume all of those people only buy one sticker. I'm going to make about $1,250. And for this event, this is a real event, I paid $400 for the booth, which means that I'm going home with about $850, which isn't horrible. And that's on the low end. The high end, let's say it was like those same numbers, but 2% instead of 1% of people, would be $2,500. And I will say I was kind of in between those, but closer to the 2% number. And so that event worked out really well for me. I do, however, recommend, unless like you have a crazy Instagram following or something, and a lot of those people are going to turn up, to start with the smaller events. Start with things that are on the maybe cheaper end or the like more local end, and then kind of work your way up. I still have never done an event where I had to go out of state because then you have to deal with the cost of hotels and stuff like that. So you really have to make sure you're gonna get your money back for all of that. So I've only done things that I could drive to. The most expensive event that I've done so far was $400 for a weekend. And I think the cheapest was like $30 for a day. And I would not do that event again. I did make my money back. It just really wasn't worth it to me, especially if you're someone trying to make a career out of doing this. Those smaller ones may or may not be worth it for you. You really just have to feel it out. But if you are starting out, I do recommend doing some of the cheaper ones first, especially as you're just like getting things figured out. You're figuring out your display, figuring out your items, your prices, those kinds of things. Start small and then get bigger. This is all coming from just my own personal experiences. And there are other people out there that maybe know more, but this is just what I've seen in the last few years that I've been doing this. So once you've gotten that far, you've found an event, you've decided I'm gonna apply to this one. It looks good. It looks like my target audience and like I'm actually gonna make my money back on the booth. And I will say, getting your money back on the booth doesn't have to be your requirement. Maybe you're just doing this for fun and you just want to like go out there and experiment and have fun. Then do you, be you. That was me at first. I was like, I'm happy if I make a sale. Now that I've done a few events, I want to at least make my booth money back. And if I make any extra, then that's great. Thankfully, I also have a full-time job aside from doing that. And so that really helps me be able to look at these events as something fun. And if I make money, it's cool. but people that do this for a living do need to consider how much things cost and how much money they might make back. Anyway, as I was saying, once you've made the decision to apply, there will typically be a full application that you need to do. Do not respond to people on Facebook that say, PayPal me this much money and you're in. It's a scam. Just be really aware of scams. If there is not an actual application, it's a scam. Even some of the applications that I've seen scared me away from doing an event because it felt too scammy. It's honestly always better to be on the safe side. So once you're sure it's not a scam, they're gonna ask for pretty basic things like your name, your business name, your email address, and social media accounts, websites, things like that. They will also sometimes ask for your business license number, your UBI. Your business license is really easy to get, usually pretty cheap. You just get it off of the DOR website for your state. Some applications, this is usually for bigger events, will require a website that isn't social media. So typically I use Etsy as my website and then like Instagram for my social media, but I have come across one that wanted an actual like website, and so I did not apply to that one because I don't actually have a website yet. They will also typically ask for description and or pictures of your products, pics of your table setup. And one helpful thing for that, if you've never done a table setup before, do a mock setup at home and take pictures of that and send that in. They really just want to get an idea of what it's going to look like. Some of them might also require liability insurance. They'll require you maybe to have your own table, your own canopy, your own chairs. Just read the fine lines. Some of them will provide you with a lot of the stuff, and some of them require you to have it all. So just really read before you fill out the application. Unfortunately, some events won't have this information outside of the application, so you have to actually go into the application, start filling it out, and then it will start telling you these requirements. But you can always back out and stop filling out the application if you decide it's too much. Some of them will also have a non-refundable jury fee. So this is basically just a fee for people to look at all of the applicants and decide who's going to get in, and you will not get that money back. Some applications will require all of the money up front. The U District Street Fair did that, and then what they'll do is if you don't get into the event, they will refund you all that money. And then some of them won't require any money up front, but once you've gotten your approval letter, they will ask you to send all of the money in. And like I was saying, be aware that some events, the application is way out. So if you're looking for summer events, you want to look in winter. Sometimes if you want like a big Christmas event to go to, start looking in the summer. Some of the smaller events maybe don't have as much of a lead time. But yeah, that's really all I have for this. I hope you guys found that useful. Let me know if you've done any events and what your favorite one is and why that was. I think my favorite event was the U District Street Fair, and part of that is not only because I did well, but also because they had so many food trucks, and I brought my fiance, and what I did with him was he would just go find food and he would bring food back. So that was fun for me, and of course he's there also so I can get up and walk around here and there. But yeah, I will be making a follow-up video to this about how to be successful at street fairs and little tips and tricks that I wish I knew when I was starting out. So stay tuned for that video. Make sure to give me a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!